Hey everyone, RogueGold here, and today we have some really fantastic news for the Division 2 that I want to go over and break down. Funny enough, I'd been working on a video to make for today that was talking about this exact same topic before we got some official news on it, and so that's what I want to go over and break down for you all, and I think it's a really positive sign and step forward for the game, so it should be fun. Let's get right into it. And I want to start with just a little bit of context in case anybody has not been aware of some of these changes that have been happening. So as I'm sure many of you are aware, the TU17 and Season 11 PTS for the Division 2 went live late last week, and as was communicated to us several months back, for Season 11, part of the devs' focus was introducing a lot of positive PvP quality of life changes, things that would improve the overall PvP experience and just make that side of the game better. We then got our first bit of details about that a few weeks back when they updated the known issues board with some of the PvP changes they had planned for this update, and now on there was a change that they specified for the jammer pulse in the game. And it read, I'm paraphrasing, but it said, if you have a jammer that is a lower tier than the skill that you are trying to jam, it will no longer be affected by the jammer. Now at first glance, I was excited by this change, and that was for one very specific reason, because it sounded very, very similar to about 2 years ago, Bruce, who used to be a lead game designer on the game, said that he was working on a change where the jammer pulse would no longer destroy skills that were a higher skill tier. Now I want to make that a very important distinction there, that there was a difference between destroying and not affecting. So my mind immediately went to that old change, and I said that I was excited for this new jammer, thing that they were working on. A lot of people, however, kind of read what it was actually saying, and I just kind of looked past that, and they said, well, this doesn't actually seem like a very good change, because they said you're just taking away a very important counter that a lot of build types and players have for these skill builds that are already very powerful within the Dark Zone. And that was a very valid point, but as I always say, I wanted to wait it for the PTS to go live to actually test it out, and that's exactly what we did when the PTS launched on Friday. You can go and watch my stream that we had a section where we tested out what the new jammer functionality actually was within TU17, and it was not the case where it was simply not destroying stationary skills anymore if you were a lower skill tier, but it was also just not applying the EMP status at all to the skills or to the user. If you were a lower skill tier than the player you were fighting, it was giving them complete EMP immunity, and I don't think that's how it should function whatsoever. And I know a lot of people might disagree with me here and say that they think nothing about this sort of change should go into the game at all. I still think that it would be a positive change for the overall experience if they made it so that lower skill tier jammers didn't destroy higher tier stationary skills. I don't think that's a great interaction within the game, because if you think about it, let's say you're running a hero build, for example, right, and you're using the Restorer Hive, you're putting in everything that your build possibly can to make that one skill as powerful as it can be. And somebody can just come along with a tier 0 jammer, click the button, and all of a sudden your hive is disabled for 30 seconds. Everything that you're putting your build into is gone, because those types of builds don't have any armor, they don't have any weapon damage, they're all about the skill power and all about making your skills as powerful as possible. I mean, imagine if you were using a DPS build, a gun build, and somebody could just come and click one button and all of a sudden you can't use your gun for 15 seconds. How's that going to feel? It's not going to feel good. And I know a lot of people just have the mindset that they want skills to be completely scorched earth, because they've been very strong at PvP for a long time, and I can understand that frustration, but at the same time, it's not a positive step to say, well, let's now swing the pendulum the complete other direction and make them completely useless. In an ideal world, there are a lot of strong build types that all have very viable counter options so that players actually have the skill and the direction of the fights in their hands, and that's not currently where we're really at in the Division 2. So I always thought it would make much more sense to have it where lower skill tier jammers no longer destroyed higher tier stationary skills, but they should absolutely still apply the EMP status to any skill and any player regardless of what skill tier that person is at. But of course, that's not what we saw on the PTS, and that's what I was going to break down in that other video until we got this really great news. Posted a few hours ago to Twitter by Morten Ryberg, I will put it up on screen right here, is of course the product director on the Division 2. He said, "Thank you for the input on the jammer, changes will be made. We will evaluate the situation and get back." And this is absolutely fantastic. A lot of people say, oh, the devs run these PTSs just for publicity, they don't actually ever change anything. Well, this is evidence that swings quite the other direction. The vast majority of anyone who plays PvP said that they weren't pleased with this jammer change. The devs have heard this, and now they're going to make changes accordingly. Obviously, we don't know the full extent of what these changes they're planning are going to be. I have a feeling that if they just asked this to the ETF group that they have going for PvP, this change probably would have never made it in as it is. But I'm glad it's going back now. I'm glad they're going back to the drawing board, and I hope they don't just completely scrap it and say, well, we're just not going to make any changes. I still think it would be a viable endeavor to make it so, it kind of functions the way that I outlined just a minute ago. But either way, I'm glad that they're going back and making changes to this decision. I think it's going to be a positive change for PvP as a whole. So that's the news, everybody. Changes are being made, feedback is being listened to, and I think this is a very important step in the overall process of game development where, we test things out, we get feedback, and they make changes. So it's really great to see, and I hope nothing but the best comes from this. Thank you all so much for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video, and be sure to subscribe with notifications on to be updated every time I upload. Let me know your thoughts on the news that the devs are going to go in and change the jammer from the previous change that they had already announced. Do you think that's a positive step for PvP? If you're a PvP player, how did you feel about the jammer change in the first place? Again, I have a feeling I'm in the minority of people who still wanted to see somewhat of what they were planning there, but not the full extent of it. But I would be very curious, as always, to hear your thoughts about it down below. That's going to do it for me today, everybody. Once again, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and until the next one, guys, RogueGold out.